Alice was beginning to get very tired of sitting by her sister on the bank on a warm summer's day. She had just finished gathering flowers for her cat, Dinah, when suddenly a white rabbit with a waistcoat and a watch ran past Alice saying, "Oh dear, I'm late!" With curiosity, Alice ran across the field after it. She was just in time to see it pop down a large rabbit hole under the hedge. And before she knew it, Alice too was falling down the rabbit hole. Suddenly, she came upon a heap of sticks and dry leaves, and the fall was over, and Alice began her journey. Alice picked herself up and found that she was standing in front of a little white house. Alice heard a little pattering of footsteps, and she suddenly found a white rabbit staring at her. "Why, Mary Ann, what are you doing out here? Go fetch my gloves and fan." Confused, Alice walked into the rabbit's house. She found her way into a little room with a table, and on it was a fan and a pair of gloves. As she took them and was about to leave, her eyes fell on a little bottle. Alice drank it, and she started to grow. Alice could hardly fit in the room, and the white rabbit came upstairs and saw the giant Alice. "Oh, dear me, this will never do." The rabbit went to gather some other creatures to help rid him of the giant Alice. "Someone must pull her out of the chimney," he said. They found a lizard named Bill with a ladder, and the rabbit pushed Bill down the chimney. But it was no use. Alice's giant foot kicked the lizard out of the chimney miles and miles away. "Well," said the rabbit, "we must burn the house down." And Alice called out, "Oh, no, you don't." There was dead silence instantly. And then the rabbit went on to his next idea. Suddenly, loads of little pebbles came rattling in at the window, and she noticed that the little pebbles were all turning into little cakes. "If I eat one of these cakes, it's sure to make something happen in my size." She ate one of the cakes and started to shrink. She ran out of the rabbit's house, past the angry creatures who were still throwing rocks through the windows, and she entered the woods. Alice looked up, and her eyes met those of a large blue caterpillar who was sitting on top of a mushroom, smoking a long hookah. "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. Alice replied, I hardly know, sir." And the caterpillar demanded an explanation. Irritated, Alice walked away. "Wait!" the caterpillar called after her. "What seems to be your problem?" he asked. "Well, I'd like to be my own height again. 3 inches is an awful height," Alice said. "I am exactly 3 inches high, and it is a very good height indeed," the caterpillar remarked. "But one side of the mushroom will make you grow taller, and the other will make you grow shorter." And with that, he transformed into a butterfly and flew away. She ate a little piece of the mushroom, and to her delight, she began to grow taller. She brought herself back to her normal height, and then walked out of the wood and found an odd house before her. Alice was a little startled when she saw a curious-looking Cheshire cat on the branch of a tree a few feet away from her. "Cheshire Cat," Alice said, and the cat grinned wider. "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go?" And the cat replied, "That depends on where you want to get to." "I don't really much care where." "Then," said the cat, "it really doesn't matter which way you go." The Cheshire Cat jumped off the tree and walked toward Alice. "I'd suggest you go see the Mad Hatter and the March Hare there in that direction," the cat said as he pointed to the right. "But I don't want to go amongst mad people," Alice remarked. "Oh, you can't help that. We're all mad here. I'm mad. You're mad. How do you know I'm mad?" said Alice. "You must be," said the cat, "or you wouldn't have come here." Alice sighed. "Will you be playing croquet with the Queen today?" the cat asked. "Well, I haven't been invited, but you'll see me there," said the cat as it completely vanished. The Mad Hatter! What nonsense, Alice thought to herself. Nevertheless, she took the cat's advice and walked down a little path, continuing her journey. There was a little table set out under a tree in front of the house, and the Mad Hatter and the March Hare were having their afternoon tea. A dormouse was sitting between them, fast asleep in a teacup. How very curious, Alice thought to herself. They were all sitting at one end of a very long table. Alice took a seat near them, and they cried out, "No room! No room!" "But there is plenty of room," Alice said. "Yes, but it was very rude of you to sit down without being invited," said the March Hare. Alice sat back and sighed. "Let's change the subject," said the March Hare as he poured himself a cup of tea. "Why is a raven like a writing desk?" the Mad Hatter asked Alice. "A riddle. I can guess that," Alice said as she began to think of what the answer could be. "Have you figured it out yet?" he asked. "Well, you haven't given me much time," Alice sighed. Time, said the Mad Hatter. "He's not on good terms with time," said the March Hare. "Actually, he upset time so badly that he is trapped at 6 o'clock every day." Alice gasped. "So it's always tea time!" The March Hare nodded. "I don't think," Alice started. "If you don't think, then you shouldn't talk," the Mad Hatter interrupted. "Oh," said Alice as she walked back into the wood. "At any rate, I'll never go there again," Alice thought. "It's the stupidest tea party I have ever been to in all of my life." She then saw a tree that had a door leading right into it. "That's very curious," Alice said, and in she went. And no sooner did she enter the tree, she found herself in a beautiful garden. She heard the sound of horns, and someone calling out, "The Queen! The Queen!" First came the soldiers carrying clubs, then came the courtiers with the diamonds, the royal children in hearts. Then came the guests, and the White Rabbit, who took no notice of Alice, and last came the King and Queen of Hearts. The procession stopped right in front of Alice, and they all stared at her. "My name is Alice, Your Majesty," Alice said politely. "Can you play croquet?" asked the Queen. "Yes," said Alice. "Then let the game begin," the Queen demanded. Alice had never seen such a curious croquet game in her life. The croquet balls were live hedgehogs, and the mallets live flamingos of different colors. The soldiers had to stand on their hands and feet to make arches. All the players tried to play at once, and the queen was furiously stomping about shouting, "Off with their head!" Suddenly, Alice noticed a curious appearance in the air. She watched as a grin appeared, then eyes, ears, nose. Cheshire Cat, Alice said happily. The Cheshire Cat continued to grin at Alice, thinking that enough of itself was in sight. No more of his body appeared. "Who are you talking to?" asked the king, looking at the cat's head. "It's my friend, a Cheshire Cat," Alice said. "Well, it must be removed immediately," the king ordered. "My dear, I wish you would have this cat removed from court," said the king, and without even looking, the queen shouted, "Off with its head!" "I'll fetch the executioner myself," said the king eagerly. No sooner did the king and executioner come to court was there a dispute on how to behead a bodiless head. The queen became furious at this and demanded that it get resolved before everyone in court will lose their head. Alice could not think of anything that would help resolve the situation, except to say, "It belongs to the Duchess, ask her what to do." The queen called for the Duchess, and by the time she came, the cat had entirely disappeared. The king and executioner were about to search for him when there was a call from the distance. "The trial's beginning." The king and queen of hearts were seated on their thrones when Alice arrived to the courtroom, and a great crowd of creatures and cards assembled around them. Alice had never been in a court before, but she had read about them in her lessons. "That's the judge, because of his wig," Alice said while looking at the king. "And that's the jury box," thought Alice as she looked at the group of creatures, each with a small chalkboard which they were scribbling on madly with chalk. After the rabbit blew his horn, he unrolled a parchment and read as follows. "The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts, all on a summer's day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts and took them quite away." The king looked at the jury. "Consider your verdict," he said. "Not yet," the rabbit interrupted. "First witness, the Mad Hatter," the rabbit yelled. "I beg your pardon, I must finish my afternoon tea," the Hatter said. The king asked, "You ought to have finished by now. When did you begin?" He looked at the March Hare and Dormouse who had come with him to court. "The 14th of March, said the Hatter. 15th, said the March Hare. 16th, said the Dormouse. The king nodded and dismissed the Mad Hatter. "Write that down," he said to the jurors, and the jury eagerly wrote down all 3 dates on their slates. "Next witness," called the rabbit. "Alice, you may take the stand." "And what do you know about this business?" the king asked Alice. "Nothing," she said. "Nothing whatever?" the king asked. "Nothing whatever," Alice remarked. "That's very important," the king said. "Write that down," and the jurors immediately started to write this down on their slates. "Unimportant, your majesty means," said the rabbit, and the jury wrote that down as well. The king sat there confused. This is nonsense, Alice said to herself. The king looked up at the court and said, "Let the jury consider the verdict." And the queen interrupted, "No, no, sentence first, verdict afterwards." Alice sighed. More nonsense. The idea of having a sentence first. Furiously, the queen shouted, "Off with her head!" At this, the whole pack of soldier cards rose up into the air and came flying down at Alice. Alice ran out of the court, into the garden, back through the tree, through the woods and village, and then she felt herself falling. She saw the card soldiers growing further and further away. "Alice," she heard in the distance. "Alice." And she opened her eyes. "Will you please try to pay attention to your lesson?" her sister scolded. "How curious," Alice said sleepily. "Oh, never mind," her sister said as she closed her book. "Let's have some tea."